Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honors, and glories to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakodash, and double honors to the apostles and others, great millstone, and salutations to the hopeful elect. This is your brother, I'm Noah Allah from Gemma, Chicago, and come back with you with another lesson. And basically going into prophecy, and as you can see here, that's what you're reading right here, alright? This is an AI overview, but basically goes into, a split between the US and NATO, right? It says, as of April 2026, the US-NATO relationship is facing its most significant crisis in 77 years due to President Trump threatening to withdraw from the 32-member alliance. Tensions arise from Trump's claim that allies are not paying enough for defense and lack support for U.S. action, specifically during the ongoing war in Iran. And you can see here, the key aspects of this situation, right? Trump has threatened to pull the U.S. out of the alliance, calling it a paper tiger. Core issues, despite centers on allies refusing to support the U.S.-Israeli war against Iran, including shit. Oh crap. Yeah. Our allies refusing to support the US-Israeli war against Iran, including refusing to secure the Strait of Hormuz. And this is an illegal war that the US has started, alright? That the US and Israel has started, alright? And now you got NATO, alright? U.S. allies basically bucking up against the U.S. and Israel by not intervening in this illegal war, all right? And basically they're not supporting them, all right? So you can see that there's a division between the U.S. and NATO, all right? And that is going to come. NATO and the EU are going to point their nuclear missiles here at America real soon, but before that can come to pass, right, the major prophecy that must have to come to pass first is the MOTB, the implementation of the RFID microchip, which will be made mandatory globally. Revelation 17 and 14. Actually, I'm going to start with 16. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast goes into NATO and the EU. These shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked. And the whore is basically going into America. Alright? It says, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. Beast is and now everybody can see that the U.S. and Israel are the main world problems that this world faces right now. All right, now these different countries are dealing with economic woes because of this ongoing Iran war that is basically putting a halt to the Strait of Hormuz, which is 20% of transport of oil. All right, now these countries are now facing, having to face with an energy crisis. All right, now they're having to ration fuel. All right, and now it's destroying the global economy currently, especially here in America, because now everybody's paying more for gas. All right, and hey, who just started this war? The U.S. and Israel. Verse 17. For Yahweh hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast until the words of Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahushai, shall be fulfilled. And that's right. The Lord is the one that is controlling your world governments. All right. The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. He turneth whithersoever he will. All right. So the Lord is basically in control at the end of the day. The Lord is having prophecy, come to pass. All right. To come to pass first. Verse 18, and the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. And yeah, that whore is America. Alright? Babylon the Great. Alright, that one superpower that every nation knows that's the big bully on the block. But now, alright, these nations are not, even America's own allies are not fearing the US and Israel no more. Alright, because now they got nuclear capabilities. Now they're starting to buck up and basically bucking up against the US and refusing to do as what they say. Daniel 7 and 17. These great beasts which are four. The four beasts goes into the first one, the Babylonian Empire. The second, Medo-Persia. The third, the Greek Empire. The fourth, the Roman Empire. And 4 kings which shall arise out of the earth, but the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom. Damn. Hard lightning. It's like, but the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever and forever, even forever and ever. And yeah, that's a prophecy that is yet to come to pass real soon. But before that happens, the major prophecies have to come in order first. Right, the MOTB, or the destruction of America, and the deliverance of the elect. Verse 19. Then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, and his nails of brass. The fourth beast goes into the Roman Empire, alright, which right now we're currently in the revival of the Roman Empire, alright, because look, you have the Roman Empire similarities with the US, right? The Roman Empire had a Senate house, so does the US. The Roman Empire has them, Roman pillars, so does the US at the White House, and so on and so forth, alright? The coin is the money that you pay every day, alright? In the scriptures it talks about, the Caesar being on a coin, on a quarter or so. And what do you see on the 25 quarter? An Edomite basically. Alright? Damn, it's raining hard. It's alright. But it says, of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, his teeth were of iron, and his nails of brass, which devoured, break in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet. And of the 10 horns that were in his head, alright, which goes into the Germania Major, that's the 7 heads of the dragon. Basically going into the NATO and the EU, but it says that of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell. Salakia. One second. So look, these are the 10 horns, that's what it represents. Alright, but here's the 7 heads, 7 garments or kingdoms ruled by Esau. Alright, you got Germania Major, the Romans, the French, the Spanish, the Germanian Minor, the British, the Greeks, and the whore, which is America. And the 10 horns represents the Common Market or the European Economic Community (EEC), established in 1958. Today, EEC, known as the EU, the European Union. You got 1, Belgium, Denmark, France, Italy, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Greece, Spain and Portugal, England and Ireland, and West Germany. But it says of the 10 horns that were in his head, and the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell. The 3 horns that fell basically goes into the British, the French, and the Spanish. Alright? This was during the time when everybody should basically, when the 13 colonies were being set up. Alright? Which, America sprung up from Great Britain, basically. Alright? Even of that horn that had eyes and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. Right? That horn, or that little horn, that had eyes and a mouth that spake very great things, is basically going into America, whose look was more stout than his fellows. And yeah, America is boastful. America is prideful. You look at Trump today, alright, he's speaking many great things, saying how they're going to rebuild back the US economy, making America great again. How they're going to do these things to, to improve these people's lives better. But at the end of the day, really America is deemed to get destroyed. And right now, alright, and what you see here right now, alright, Trump speaking very great things, alright, how they're going to do this, that, and the third for America. But you can see that this place is collapsing, right? And it says whose look was more stout than his fellows, right? Goes into America's pride. Alright, they're more arrogant, they're more boastful, they're prideful. Alright? But nonetheless, you go into the news, you can see that, there's a split between the US and NATO. As Trump rallies against NATO, Secretary General heads to Washington. The president has vowed to reassess the US membership in NATO once the Iran war is over. Trump is upset by allies' refusal to show the fight in clearing the Strait of Hormuz so oil-bearing ships can once again safely pass. And these right? Nobody wants to go to war. Not even the citizens of America want to go to war, right? Because citizens over here are also bucking up against Trump as well, and those other top officials bucking up against the US and Israel at the end of the day too. But you can see that there's a division between, you saw with himself, right? A kingdom divided against himself cannot stand, all right? And then the faster, it's like, as they're watching these prophecies come to pass, which is a great thing, all right? The MOTB, all right? The implementation of the offer of the microchip, and soon the destruction of America. Hey, it's a good thing for us because, Esau is about to go out of power. All right, Esau's rulership is coming to an end, and we're seeing that. But nonetheless, hope this lesson was edifying. I want to give all praises, honors, and glories to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushua, and Shalom.